Five Nights at Treasure Island, a game created by Radiant's team, who are also the devs of titles like Five Nights at Chuck E. Cheese's Rebooted, Oblivious Casa, and more. Five Nights at Treasure Island, or FNAF for short, is a FNAF fan game that took the photo-negative Mickey concept from the Abandoned by Disney creepypasta and turned it into a Five Nights at Freddy's style game. FNAF was released in 2020, and the game has a Nights 1 through 5 format. From this game, FNAF But Dumb was originated. If you're familiar with the FNAF But Better series, you could say it's basically that. FNAF But Dumb is a mod of the original FNAF that not only adds more characters, but also changes some of the characters' mechanics. I have a full guide on this game in the channel, so if you want to know pretty much everything about the game, consider checking it out. Today I'm here to talk about none other than the hardest max mode from this game, SSM. This mode consists of selecting SM in the menu and turning on silent mode, giving you 1520 plus aggressive plus silent. SSM is currently placed at number 9 on the main list, but what makes this mode be so high up in the list? To understand that, let's go a little bit back and talk about just 1520, also known as NAD, or Nightmare at Disney. The first thing you'll notice when playing NAD for the first time is the speed of all the characters. At first you'll be chilling, with nothing happening, and suddenly everyone's in the office, PNM, CPNM, and Hourglass seconds away from spawning. It's definitely very chaotic and will literally feel impossible to deal with everyone without dying. But as you could probably guess, there's a strategy that makes this doable. When you start the night, the first thing you notice is that no one is really showing up for a really long time. Well, one, it's because of the starting offset, and two, their spawn timers are actually just pretty long. If you don't know what the starting offset is, I'll quickly explain it. Almost half of the characters have a starting offset to their first movement. This means that the first time they appear in the cameras will be delayed by a certain amount of time. Their following movements will not have an offset though, but this explains why the beginning is so slow. After around 14 seconds-ish, everyone will start jumping at you at once. But this can be dealt with pretty easily if you utilize the office cycle. The office cycle will start as soon as you hear Undying's sound cue. This cycle consists of 4 steps. Moving your cursor from left to right to get rid of MPNM, standing still on the right side to get rid of Undying, shutting off the lights and standing still on the left to get rid of both Acephalus and Sparky's first phase, and finally, pulling up the cameras and shutting any cam to deal with Sparky's second phase. The reason why this works so well is because of the way every office character spawns. The first character to appear is Sparky, who makes a sound cue to indicate they spawn, but we'll ignore it for a reason I'll talk about soon. Then, MPNM appears, who is completely silent, but it's fine because of the next character, Undying, which is the character we listen for to know when to start the office cycle. And lastly, Acephalus. If you grab the spawn order of these characters and really look at it, excluding Sparky, that's the order we deal with all the characters. So now you can really understand why the cycle is that way. But the reason why we don't deal with Sparky when he appears is actually very simple, and it's because of his kill timer. All the characters from the office cycle have relatively long kill timers, allowing you to deal with them even a little late in some cases. Sparky's kill timer is easily the longest. He not only gives you 11.5 seconds to get rid of him in the office, but also in the camera system. And we also wait for Undying because Acephalus spawns soon after, making a neat little flow to the office cycle. So that gets rid of 4 of the 15 characters in the challenge. But you know, simple math, there's still 11 of them. Before even starting the office cycle, 2 other characters will appear, those being Mortimer and Pete. Mortimer's mechanic is fairly simple. He'll spawn in the office and play a song. To temporarily get rid of him, you have to find the camera where the song is the loudest, and then close it. Mortimer gives you 24 seconds to find his camera, so he's really not that bad. But don't really sleep on him, since if his kill timer is about to run out and you're in the middle of an office cycle, you can easily get killed. As for Pete, also very easy. He'll appear in one of the 10 cameras and his presence is indicated by a red dot. Watch that camera for 1 second and he's gone. He also gives a ton of time to do this, so you shouldn't really be dying to them at all. For now. Alright, minus 2 characters. Who's next? Ah, right. Impurity. A TLDR on Impurity's mechanic is that they're basically the Foxy or costume of this game. You can't let them reach your office before the night ends. For NAD, this character is not that bad. As soon as you close Impurity's camera, their movement timer will instantly reset to 11 seconds. So the general rule is to keep it closed whenever you don't need any other cams closed. Now let's get to the 3 characters that will ruin your day: PNM, CPNM, and Hourglass. These 3 are the most annoying characters in this game, since they rely a lot on memory. But for NAD, you should only really watch out for CPNM. PNM will appear in the doors when he gets to the office, so just look for which doors he appeared on and close the respective camera. Hourglass is very complicated, but their kill timer is pretty long, so you can just try out every action until they disappear. CPNM is the only character that you have to use your brain for, since when they appear in the office, there's no indication of which camera they came from, so really make sure to remember where they last were in cams before spawning. The last character to watch out for is the face. When they appear, you have to stop what you're doing and shut off the lights. Though keep in mind that Face's kill timer is 5 seconds, so there's a good amount of leeway for you to finish shutting off a camera or something. The scariest part about the face, however, is missing when they spawn. They have a pretty distinct sound cue for appearing in the office. But with all the other sound cues going on, it's pretty easy to miss him. Unfortunately, there's no real strategy to listen to him better other than just listen. But when you hear the first vent bang sound, you'll know the next one is him entering, so prepare yourself when you hear that. All of the other characters are just annoyances and shouldn't really cause too many issues. I guess Oswald could troll you sometimes, but if you want to mitigate that chance, just stand still every time you go into the office, even if it's just the face or just Hourglass. And that's the overall night cycle. Find CPNM, pay attention for Hourglass and PNM, reset Mortimer, reset Pete's, do the office cycle, repeat. Again, if you want more information about all of this, refer to my Ultimate FNAF BD guide. But anyway, if all is done correctly, Nightmare at Disney will be no more. Yes! Oh, that was scary. Let's go! NAD complete. With NAD explained, now it's time for SM. I'll just say this right now, this challenge is way harder than NAD, and it's not even close. Every character gets an aggressive buff, and the most notable ones are PNM, CPNM, Hourglass, the Face, Mortimer, and Impurity. But let's get to it. PNM now won't appear at the doors, so you have to check for him once he reaches cam 2 or 6, or else you have to try your luck and guess. Hourglass now gets more specific actions for each camera, so the guess strat is way harder to pull off. CPNM now gets a second movement before entering the office, which basically means less time to find him, and you might also mistake the correct camera if you've seen him before the second movement. The Face now requires you to shut off the lights and close cam 9 for them to disappear, making for really annoying situations regarding Impurity. And speaking of the devil, Impurity now gradually increases their movement timer for every second with their cam closed. This means that you now need Impurity's cam closed for a certain amount of time to fully reset them instead of instantly, which makes a big difference during the night. Lastly, Mortimer is now permanently in the office. Once you reset their song, his kill timer will just start counting down again instantly, meaning that Mortimer will need to be reset way more frequently throughout the night, pretty much after every office cycle. In terms of strategy for this challenge, the office cycle part doesn't change at all, but the camera management becomes way harder. Now you have to keep track of PNM, CPNM, and Hourglass all at once. Forgetting where one of them are will most likely result in death. A strat I like to use for Hourglass is to only check cams 3, 4, and 8. If you see Hourglass in any of those cams, you'll know which action to do when they get to the desk. If you don't see them, then simply stand still on the left with the lights off, since the only cams they could be in are cams 5 and 9. For Mortimer, make sure to always shut off his cam at least once in between every office cycle. If you have to do it right after the office cycle, keep his cam selected before flipping down cams, and once you flip it up, quickly shut off the camera. And finally, for the Face, you can use their aggressive buff to further stall characters by having the lights off in the office without cam 9 closed. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I explained it better in the guide video. Nightmare at Disney was more of a test to see if you have the game's mechanics down. This challenge is that, but also a big memory test. I guarantee most of your deaths will be to one of these 3. But with enough practice, you'll be able to beat SM. Let's go! Holy shit, I didn't know where Hourglass was, I just guessed. And now we've gotten to the main attraction, SSM. I kept the last two sections brief because I already explained them in the Ultimate Guide, and I'm sure they aren't what you're here for. What you really want to see is the top 9 max mode in the max mode list. But before we get to how the mode works and how I beat it, yes, I did indeed complete it, let's look back at my history with max modes. It all started when, literally out of nowhere, I decided I wanted to complete 50-20 mode. I had heard about the fame of that max mode, and I was literally there when Daco completed it himself. I've always been a big fan of FNAF in general, but I was never really a player of the series. Mostly because, honestly, I was kinda scared of being jump scared. But as time went on, I decided to face these fears and try to beat 50-20. I know it's random for me to start playing FNAF with what's considered the hardest max mode in the franchise, but I knew that since people's first completions, new strategies were born, and a lot of people had completed it themselves. Nowadays, the mode has more than 500 victors listed on the MML. This doesn't even include people who don't have their video submitted, which is probably a lot. I started grinding it, and after a few weeks, I beat it. Then after that, I went back to the other games and completed their max modes too. After clearing pretty much every main game max mode, I was left with a question. Well, what now? I beat all the max modes from the games, so what do I do now? That's when I first encountered the Bones5's Rat and Cat All Challenges video. If there's anyone I have to thank, it's him, because if I never watched this video, I probably wouldn't have known about the MML and reached the heights I've reached today. So, thank you, Bones. After watching that video, I really wanted to try my hand at that game. It looked like a crazy aim challenge, which I was definitely excited for since, besides FNAF games, I like playing shooters and Osu, which is a rhythm game mainly about 2D aim. And so I began. I spent countless hours learning and mastering the game, until one day, I completed Rat and Cat All Challenges OG Laser Pointer, which at the time was ranked at number 35 on the Unlimited list. When it was in the main list, it was about top 15. Nowadays, the mode sits at number 49 on the main list, which is just crazy to think about. Now, I'm not going to talk about every completion, since at this point, there are many, but one singular completion stands out from the rest. Perfect Cacophony. When I completed that mode, it was placed at number 3 on the main list. Yes, at the time there were only 2 max modes considered harder than that challenge. It was easily the hardest max mode I had ever done, and until May 17th, it still was my hardest completion, sitting at number 14 on the main list. Yeah, this mode fell off pretty hard. Ever since I beat it, the mode lost 11 ranks. It turns out this challenge wasn't actually as hard as people thought. Well, to be more specific, when it was first verified by BroDude5747, it was actually that hard, but the game received balance patches since then, and now this is the commonly agreed placement. Although I didn't care that much, it was kind of annoying to lose my first ever top 10 completion, so I felt like I needed to reclaim that title. The only problem was that the grind to PC was a really long and painful one. Beating HGF alone took me about 1 month, and I didn't complete PC without many tough 5 AM chokes. So to try for something harder would mean I'd have to go through those moments again. But before making a decision, I just looked back on myself. All these people from my Discord server, all of you guys who decided to support all of what I've been doing, there was really only one option. I had to do this. One game that has always been requested to me was none other than Fnatty But Dumb, and so I started playing it. I completed Nightmare at Disney, beat SM, beat Silent Nightmare at Disney, and then it was time. SSN. Again? I don't actually! This max mode was the ultimate Fnatty But Dumb challenge. To beat it, I needed to use 100% of my brain power and put together all the knowledge from the previous challenges and have really good reaction skills to adapt my game plan depending on which characters would get silent buffed. In case you're wondering, silent mode adds two things: a unique buff to all the characters and power mode. This buff only happens during what is called a silent effect. This happens once every hour, and when it does, 3 random characters get chosen to get silent buffed for the remaining time of the silent effect, which is 30 seconds. Power mode adds the usual power managing that most FNAF games have. To make sure power doesn't run out, you must shut off a camera with a green dot on it. After 6 seconds, a tick of power usage will be added. Then after every 3 seconds, other ticks will be added. The amount of power drain is proportional to those ticks, and the more you have, the more power you lose. Running out of power would pretty much guarantee death, since you aren't allowed to do anything without it. So how did I manage all of this? Well, by dying over and over again until I learned and won. But I'll divide the night in 3 sections. The first hour, when the first silent effect happens, and the last hour, 5 AM. The first hour is easily the most simple one. No one gets buffed here, so it's literally just SM but with power. The best way to manage power is always shutting off a power cam during a cam cycle, just before doing an office cycle, and right after finishing the office cycle. A movement I had to practice a lot was this one: clicking on a power cam, shutting it, then clicking on impurities cam and closing it. All really fast, because wasting time with this would mean less time to find PNM, CPNM, and Hourglass. If you want to beat SSM, you should master this. It's really useful to do. "1 AM was a really big wall. This is when the first silent effect happens. But what made this hour so hard was the fact that PNM and CPNM usually appear right after one another, and combining with some silent buffs, it was really hard to get past this part without letting Impurity move or dying myself. I'll take this section to rank what, in my opinion, are the hardest silent buffs. In Tier 4, we have the characters that don't even feel like they're buffed at all. Acephalous and Undying require you to stand still fully on the left or right sides of the office. But if you just do that always anyway, this buff means nothing. Classic the Face will 90% of the time not appear during their buff anyway, so this is literally the most useless buff in the game. Wheelie looks scary while in cams, but the sheer speed you need for SSM makes it so you're constantly scrolling through cams anyway. To put into perspective how easy this buff is, this is the only character in the entire game I've never died to. It says I have 1 death, but that's because I intentionally died to him for the guide video. In Tier 3, we got the characters that are easy to deal with, but can kill you if they appear at the wrong time. This Embodied will most of the times not pose any threat when buffed, but have him spawn at the wrong time once while buffed and your run can easily end.
Jesus Christ, fuck off!
Pete's buff isn't that different from just regular Pete's, but if things get chaotic, 5 AM, it gets really tough to remember him in the cameras. Oswald's buff isn't anything crazy to deal with, but it's pretty rare to die to him, so whenever he does get to use his buff, it might catch you off guard. In Tier 2, we got the annoying characters. When they get buffed, you already know things will get messy. Impurity's silent buff is pretty annoying. When they get buffed, it becomes a real challenge to keep them in the same camera. If you get cycles where PNM and CPNM spawn one after the other, along with the Face too, I only really managed to keep Impurity still a few times. Sparky when buffed can easily make you lose a run. Because you have to shut 2 cameras to deal with his second phase attack, you'll most likely offset from the rest of the office characters, meaning you have to resync them using the Face or just by stalling everyone's kill timers. But if you fail to do this, well, you lose. Mortimer's silent buff is genuinely the most evil freaking buff in this game. When they get buffed, it takes so long to reset their kill timer. I've lost so many runs to this buff simply because I lost so much time with this stupid buff that the other characters ended up getting me. Later on though, I figured out that the best way to deal with his buff is to only really shut off his cam right before an office cycle. Then flipping up the cam mid-cycle and shutting off impurity again. Trust me, that strat is so nice, it saved me a lot of frustration. Hourglass's buff on paper sounds like the worst thing ever, but because the silent effect is only 30 seconds long, most of the times their buff won't even apply. But when it does, oh boy. Oh. Whoa. Bro, I could have sworn it was cam 3, man! I was like literally chilling. I was so sure it was cam 3, I was literally just waiting for the next cycle. It's cam 3! Nah, you guys will not believe what just happened. Look at this. So, let's go slow motion for this. Hourglass cam 3, correct? Any agreeers? We see Hourglass here, right? I'm not the only one seeing Hourglass at cam 3, right? Now, we go a little bit forward in time. Hourglass is still there. Hourglass is gone. Undying spawns. I start the cycle. Where Hourglass? Where Hourglass? There's no Hourglass anywhere. But you know what happened? Like, you want to know what really happened? Silent buff ends at 4 minutes. It starts at 3:30 and it ends at 4 minutes. At 3:59, Hourglass moved. And that's why, when like 10 seconds later, I flip down the camera, Hourglass is at my desk, and I am so confused because I literally just dealt with this guy. Like, in my head, I just dealt with him. Oh, I hate this game, dude. The Face's buff is borderline tier 1. Forcing it to pre-close cam 9 and shut off the lights not only makes the character way easier to die to, but also means you can't use the Face's stalling abilities to help you with the others. Trust me, one of the most useful things in this game is using their long kill timer to close off Mortimer or make sure PNM and CPNM are in check, or even getting extra impurity time. And not being able to do that makes this buff one of the worst ones. And finally, in tier 1, we have the worst of the worst. The buffs that easily got me killed the most. MPNM's silent buff itself doesn't sound so bad, but I can't even count how many times I either missed the sound cue because it's so quiet, or I completely forgot to reset their kill timer. It's so forgettable, and it becomes a tier 1 buff for me. PNM. Oh, PNM. I can't even begin to describe how annoying his buff is. 1, this was probably the hardest sound cue for me to get used to hearing. I'd miss it literally 80% of the time. 2, because of the way silent effect works, it was so hard for me to remember that his silent buff usually lasts for 2 attacks. When a character gets silent buffed, they only lose their buff once their attack cycle is done. The thing is, PNM's attack cycle starts as soon as he leaves cam 3, meaning that 90% of the time once you deal with him, he will still be buffed for his next attack, even if it's like 15 seconds after the silent effect ended. Trust me, this character is so bad. He was the character I died the most to in this game. CPNM's buff is honestly just as bad as PNM. Who thought it was a good idea to have this guy appear in every single camera? Like, seriously, what is wrong with you? But seriously though, you get so little time to find him, and having to search every camera means you gotta have some serious speed scrolling through, or else he'll spawn in and only luck can save you now. Now that we got that little tier list out of the way, let's get back to the hour itself. When trying to figure out the best way to get past this part of the night, I also figured out the best way to deal with pretty much everything, and that is by breaking the office cycle. Well, sort of. When doing the office cycle, you could say it's split in 2 parts, MPNM Undying and Acephalus Sparky. If in between parts 1 and 2, you flip up the camera to quickly shut off, let's say PNM, when you stand still for Acephalus, by the time you get back in cams, PNM will already have reset, and if he was buffed, he will reset when he stands still. But that's not all. You can use this to shut off impurity mid-cycle, CPNM, hourglass, literally everyone. This is really important because in some situations, mostly when the face appears, you end up spending too long without impurities cam shut, which pretty much guarantees they'll move cams. By doing this, not only do you prevent impurity from moving, but you also make PNM and CPNM a lot easier to deal with. With that, it basically became a matter of practice until the dreaded hour, 5 AM. "5 AM is the moment of truth. Once 5 AM hits, every character will get buffed one by one until all the characters are buffed at the same time. After that, it's a matter of nerve control and combining all the knowledge you gathered from all the silent characters to survive for one last hour. For this hour, the main thing you have to pay attention for is when MP&M gets buffed. Missing it will definitely mean you're deaf. For every other character's buffs, just assume they're buffed from the beginning. When MP&M gets buffed, this is when you'll want to split the office cycle in two, literally this time. As soon as Undying spawns, quickly stand still for them, then flip up the camera and close off Mortimer. As he's getting reset, shut off the lights and stand still for Acephalus and Sparky. When you flip up the camera, remember to deal with Sparky's second phase and start scanning for CPNM. You should check for the normal 4 cameras first and then Hourglass's cameras. That way, you'll find PNM and Hourglass as you find CPNM. With the office cycle split in two, you get into this freestyle rhythm, where you're basically just dealing with each character as they appear. Don't forget the face, and for the love of God, do not forget Pete's. With SSM dissected into 3 parts, let's get to how I was dealing with the mode. The first hour wasn't that bad, obviously. If I struggled with that part, I probably would have just uninstalled and played Barbie Project Friendship or something, I don't know. Getting to the first silent effect, however, was when I really started getting an idea of how difficult this was gonna be. Each silent effect was just a battle of remembering who got buffs without forgetting about the basics like PNM, CPNM, and Hourglass. It took a lot of dying, but eventually I reached 5 AM for the first time. And I quickly got killed. This was pretty expected, to be honest, since fluking this mode is like winning the lottery. It just doesn't happen. But I had my hopes up, since I did get 5 AM considerably fast. Maybe this max mode isn't as bad as I thought. Man, I was so wrong. Are we serious? Bro, Mortimer's buff can go right off, man. How long does it take to... I didn't realize how inconsistent I was at getting to 5 AM in the first place. I'd get to 5 AM like once or maybe even 0 times per stream, which was on average 2 or 3 hours. Something was definitely wrong, and in an attempt to get more consistent, I was recommended to go back to SM and beat it a few more times. And so I did. But I realized that SM is actually just way easier and honestly kind of boring sometimes because of how slow it felt. During this SM rebeat arc, I even accidentally completed sleep paralysis. After that, I decided that no, the foundation was not the issue. The problem lied on the new addition, silent mode. And so I went back to playing SSM more. There wasn't really any way of getting more consistent except just playing the mode itself. After countless attempts, I realized that the truth is, You only get consistent once you die so many times that no matter which combination of buffs gets thrown at you, you're able to adapt and live the silent effect every time. But this takes a really long time. On the good side, I did start getting a lot more 5 AM attempts. But that does mean what you're thinking. I lost all of those attempts. I was getting to the point where I'd start getting 5 AMs at least 3 times a day, but not one of them would make it to the end. Yeah, this was rough. It felt like I was simply wasting my time trying to get to 5 AM only to lose every single time. After a few more 5 AM deaths, I needed a way to practice this hour. I was way too inconsistent to keep trying. But thankfully, my wishes were granted. This is FNAF BD Unlocked, a mod that gives you tons of settings to practice FNAF but dumb. But the option I was really looking for was the Eternal mode option. What Eternal does is that as soon as the night begins, every character is already buffed and will stay buffed until the night ends. If you've used the Shadow Vinny practice mod before, it's basically a 5 AM all night mode. In FNAF but dumb, this is actually a max mode called ESM, though you cannot play it in the Unlocked mod. You have to play a downpatched version of the game, the 1.5.2 version. And because of that, the mode is in the unlimited list only. And yes, it's harder than SSM, but it's pre-patched so it doesn't count, am I right? But anyway, with FNAF BD Unlocked, I was able to play ESM and practice 5 AM. That way, whenever I'd get a 5 AM, I'd actually have a real shot at it instead of being completely lost and dying immediately. So now I was hopeful. I felt like I was ready to try my hand at SSM again and finally complete it. Well, cue the music. Fuck, I didn't even hear him, man. I actually didn't even hear him spawn. I'm such a fucking idiot. I'm such a fucking idiot! Dude. Ah! Fuck! I guess I wasn't ready? I don't know if I was cursed or just not prepared, but even with practicing, I still could not get a successful run at all. Before finally breaking the curse, I had not 5 AM chokes or 10, but 29. 29! Just to put into perspective how messed up that is, the most 5 AM chokes I've ever had was 7. 29, bro, I can't even believe I'm saying this. It was so bad that I got easily the worst choke of my entire career. And I don't know if there's ever gonna be a choke that tops this one. Oh, I'm dead. Get out! Oh man, that choke broke me. This was literally me for the remainder of the stream. That choke made me so sad. I thought that after all the struggles I went through, it was finally time to end it. But in a matter of a second, it was taken away from me. If you've watched my 5020 Deluxe NDC video, you know I had a really bad choke over there too. But like, 1 second? Really? But another thing to take note from that video is that once I had that choke, The very next day, I beat the mode. And I'm not kidding, I actually thought about that at that moment, and it gave me a small confidence boost to just try it again the next day. And what do you know? The scriptwriters really cooked with this one. Oh, yes! Let's fucking go, dude! Let's fucking go! Oh my god. And with that, I now have reconquered a top 10 max mode in the max mode list. This really means a lot for me, since after 5020 Deluxe NDC, I had my doubts about my skills and my mental capabilities of grinding these really hard modes. SSM was yet another test, and it was way worse than the previous one. But once again, I came out victorious. And this makes me so grateful to have built up the confidence to try it in the first place. The main lesson I learned with this max mode is that there's no boundary to what I can achieve within the max mode world. The only thing that can stop me is myself. And the real challenge is to stop myself from doubting my own abilities and really just lock in. But with this challenge completed, that has become a lot easier. I'd like to use this last part of my video to shout out absolutely everyone that followed me through this grind, and never for a moment decided that this wasn't worth watching anymore and abandoned it. I spent 27 days grinding only SSM non-stop every day. But every stream, I'd see the same people, always cheering me on. I really appreciate you guys, it means everything to me, seriously. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and considering joining my Discord server if you want to be up to date with everything I do. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.